All right,
Oh, I can see.
are we ready to go?
We're recording.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item, consent agenda. Department of Marine Resources notice of public hearing on June 15th, 2022, registering to participate by May 31, 2022, and conservation easement to Acadia National Park on Parker Farm Road.
Move the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
So Rick voted yes?
Raised my hand, yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
I can't hear your hand.
Okay.
See you, Rick.
Yeah, we can't see you.
Selectmen's reports. Does anybody have a selectman report to select?
Nope.
No. It's been one of those days. No, well, I do. The Otter Creek Cemetery Association would love to have the town take over their cemetery.
That is fun.
Town meeting time.
Okay, just I'm giving you a heads up. That was my marching orders.
Your warrant article.
I'm the vice president of the Cemetery Association now, and I'm the president of
You don't have to make a request for a warrant article.
the. Okay, good.
Might have to recuse yourself.
I might have to.
Yeah. John?
Okay, new business, Mount Desert Regional High School Scholarship Stipend Authorization.
Move approval.
Yeah, I'm seconded.
Second. Good, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
There's Rick, we see him now.
Yeah, there you are.
John,
yes,
can I add one thing, but
Yes.
it's tangential to the scholarship. When I started doing the review to make this recommendation, I went to the original articles where the town accepted these trust funds.
Yeah.
And we've been really consistent about the scholarships. It does seem to me that I can't find any evidence of there are a couple other I guess wishes that come along with these trust funds that doesn't look like town has historically been contributing towards, such as the Stanley Field. There's supposed to be a little bit of money for improvements and maintenance and such. I haven't found any evidence that the town has historically done this, and that's going back 10 years. So I just wanted a little bit of guidance from the board as the trustees. My plan is to reach out to all people that might be involved with the wishes of these funds and come back to you with a proposal on how to kind of correct this going forward and get a annual process in place such that mimics the scholarship authorization.
Is it an additional payout to something? Is that what, I didn't
Yeah.
quite understand that.
But specifically, the Stanley Trust, for
Mhm.
example, that was accepted back in 1966. The proceeds, when you read the article, say $50 is going to go to the first $50 go to the maintenance of the athletic field, $100 for a scholarship, and then the remainder over that would be more improvements, maintenance to the field. Again, every year we've done $100 scholarship. I don't see anywhere where we've
I see.
ever
I see.
transmitted money on, to the school or to anyone to specifically address the field. So my plan is to reach out to Nancy Thurlow and discuss that with her. And then the Reynolds Trust, which was adopted in 1970. One of the components is for the perpetual care of lots 83 and 84 in the cemetery. I don't see anywhere where we've ever sent money to them for that purpose. Some of that could be due to the fact that there hasn't been a need. The cemeteries never reached out to us and told us what our responsibility is on that behalf. It might be something that, we're down the list in terms of people that would need to fund that. If they already have trust funds in place that are adequate, the town may not be needed for that purpose. I just wanted to bring it to your attention as trustees that, the memo that was presented tonight gives the standard history, and it's been presented over and over. And I think that the assumption that you all probably had is that, every, item here has been historically met. As of right now, I haven't found evidence of a few of them, and I just wanted a affirmative direction from you as the trustees to dig into this more. The second component of the guidance is that the language regarding how funds will be expended is very antiquated, because they were adopted in 1970 and 1966. And they use the language of, expend the balance of an annual income. This is very separate from, very different from how trust funds currently are set up. They usually will adopt a spending policy that will maintain the principal balance, and it's anyway. Long story short, I also would like guidance to continue working with a attorney that specializes in trust with Eden Peabody to figure out the proper way to interpret these that work with your responsibilities to maintain the trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much money are we talking about here total?
Well, it's very
Between
good.
these two, about $20,000 in trust.
Yeah. I think that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, we might as well straighten everything up by just balancing that against the cost of an attorney to look into.
Yeah.
Okay, it's-
Okay.
think
I
about
think-
that.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, ordinance reviews. Okay, so we need to, we voted on that.
No,
No,
Okay,
we voted on, we voted on
No, we
the
did.
scholarship, yeah, we did.
yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Ordinance reviews, public safety. Consumer fireworks ordinance enacted 2012, dogs last amended in 2009, limiting motor vehicle access to ponds last amended in 2009, no swimming in hadlock in Jordan ponds last amended in 2009, use of public places last amended in 2009. I'd like to take C and D and table those until we
Yeah.
can maybe give those to the Luso committee to look at.
So moved.
So that's the swimming?
I don't think we need to give them the Luso
I
committee. I
don't
think we
think so
just,
either.
we can just take guidance from this letter that from
Well,
Mr. Sled.
I know, but I just got this tonight. I'm not gonna,
I mean, I think the primary point of both of those ordinances is just because those are drinking water
Right.
supply.
Yeah.
And so you don't want a vehicle in the bottom of the lake.
that's
And
correct.
that's why Echo Lake is
You
not
don't want
included.
people swimming in
And you
there.
don't want people with fecal coli, whatever. Anyway,
I mean, it's not something we need to even think about until town meeting.
Oh,
It doesn't go into effect immediately.
Well, they already are in effect.
they already are in
they
effect.
are
yeah.
in effect.
Okay,
It's
so,
just a matter of whether or not we need to make any changes to them because they haven't been touched in so long, but I didn't, in what I read, which was not careful and with a lawyer present, but I didn't find any reason to think that anything needed to be amended.
I actually had a couple of questions. Can we take them one at a time?
sure.
On the consumer fireworks, I think Derlin would know, how do people get that permit if they want to, do they go to the fire department or the town office or
They go to the police, I think. What type of permit?
fireworks? When people are having a party or some kind of thing and they want to have fireworks and since they're not.
Professional fireworks show?
Yeah.
That's through the state farm office.
Oh, it
Oh,
is.
it's
Oh,
a
okay,
state,
thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Oh,
that's the only way they can do them is if they go through the state fire marshal's office. It doesn't have anything to do with you guys.
right.
Those are-
Well, it does because the state fire marshal's office contacts us.
Okay.
We go through a site visit. And typically I have the state fire marshal's office write in every permit that the fire department has to be on scene during the fireworks show.
Okay.
And those are not consumer fireworks.
Right,
Those
I
are a different
understand.
class of
Yeah,
fireworks.
Commercial, yeah.
Right. okay.
Oh, right. So the
Yeah.
consumer is just literally
No,
the
Stuff you
rule.
can
It's not
buy
allowed.
in Maine,
Got it.
Not allowed in town of Massachusetts.
but you're not allowed to, right, you can possess them, you just can't light them.
No,
off.
I believe
you
that
can't
was-
even possess them. I think.
I believe that
If you-
was
if you-
enacted after the state allowed.
Can't even have them.
Yeah, it means the
Can't even
intentional or
look at
knowing
them.
possession of what the possessor knows or believes to be fireworks.
Can't even have them.
If it's of any help at all, Chief Willis was asked by Claire on May 20th to review the ordinances or that we're now looking at, and he has done a review according to his letter back to her or to Derlin, and says that he's determined that all of them remain relevant and are used regularly by the police department.
Okay, well, I was just asking a question about how they're implemented. So I would move that, do we have to make a motion to not make any changes or to?
Well, first you have a motion on the table, on the floor to table C and D to the 6th. So
There was no motion, he just suggested it. I don't know if
no,
anyone
you
made,
said I moved to,
Then you didn't complete the sentence, so we don't know.
so we
okay.
don't know. Can we just get to those in order? I just feel better.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a question about, so do we have to do anything about the first one or just leave it alone if we're not going to change it? Carolyn,
It's just a review. it's a
Okay, so-
review.
the dogs one, I have a question. I didn't see anything in there, maybe I missed it, but about cleaning up after your dog. Is that a part of the ordinance that we have for, because we ask people to clean up after their dogs?
Let's see, you got the dog ordinance right here.
I didn't see anything.
I didn't see it.
But the dog ordinance,
Yeah,
No, about cleaning up after you.
cleaning up after, you know, it says you can't have them off the leash unless they're, but
if it isn't there, then it isn't.
yeah, well, you know, I might have missed it, but, that seems to me that could be part of the ordinance.
You'd have to bring that to the town meeting if you want to do
Oh,
that.
if we wanted to change it.
Yeah,
You can't change ordinances except for.
Okay, well,
So if you want that to be reviewed for a town meeting ordinance, and we can.
Yeah.
We can.
I
take
think
that
so.
to the
I think,
meeting.
you know, it can be a mess. Hard to enforce, but still.
all right. So yeah, I guess I'm unclear on what Paul wanted us to do here.
I think he was,
Paul, go ahead. You're muted, Paul.
he wanted to make some changes to it.
Hi, how do you?
Good.
So I had some things that we're concerned about, and that's why we drafted just a quick response in terms of some things that we're looking to do, and I'd like to just share with you some of the relevance. And I don't know if this is the proper forum to do this, making amendments or new amendments. I'm not quite sure which way you want to go. So whatever you guys tell me to do, that's fine by me. But just for example, we had mentioned ice shacks, and we got into a situation before that we wanted to have an ice shack removed because the pond was melting and danger of the ice shack falling in. We have had ice shacks fall in the past. And because we did not have a town ordinance to address it, we had no power or authority to remove that ice shack. Water withdrawal, Upper and Hadlock ponds. We have people that come that are fertilizing companies, seeding companies for lawns. They come in, we catch them, we kick them out. We don't always catch them. And we want to be very, very clear that we've got the ability to tell them that they are not allowed to access that water and potentially contaminate that water. Boats. We've always allowed traditional rowboats with or without motors, less than 10 horsepower, kayaks and canoes, have no problem with those issues. But with evolving watercraft, you know, such as things like sailboarding, paddleboarding, and oarboarding, they're not permitted. And we need to have that in an ordinance. Although we have that agreement with Acadia National Park and their enforcement group, these things should be in an ordinance. So how we get there and where you would like to see them put, we're welcome to your suggestions.
What we should do is just take this under advisement for next year. We can talk to the appropriate people to see what type of, should we have a new ordinance? Or are there some of our current ordinances that could be amended? So I think that would be just, we'll just take this under advisement. That's all
Yeah.
you really need to do at this point.
Those are good suggestions.
Yeah.
Paul, I have a question about the less than 10 horsepower. Is that not considered damaging to the water supply?
Well, I think that's the rule for the great ponds. And we've never really had an issue with that, but I believe that's a state rule.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you.
All right. And finally, no swimming in Hadlock and Jordan ponds, last amended 2009.
That's the one that he
Yeah,
wants to
that's-
add these two.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
because I would consider that if we one suggestion might be to redefine or clearly define what swimming is, which would sort of infer that sailboarding and paddleboarding
sure.
were not allowed, because you end up in the water a lot.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So Paul, I'd urge you to stay tuned and we can stay in touch as this evolves.
Sure.
Okay.
So whatever you decide, what direction you'd like us to take, we're happy to do that.
All right.
And then the last one was the use of public
Places,
Yeah.
last amended in 2009.
Paul, one of the things we might be able to do if we had a new ordinance would be to take this ordinance limiting motor vehicle access and sort of roll that into it. This is just a standalone at this point in time, but some of these other things either could be added to this or this could be added to
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I think we'd just try to see which makes the most sense. But you've got this to begin with, and then somehow this has to go into there for
Right,
consideration.
and then it goes to town meeting,
Town
right?
meeting,
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, it's for the town meeting.
okay.
So I don't know if, Derlin, do we just need to have the board make a motion that they've reviewed it? And
Yes, that's what they're doing tonight, is just
Right.
reviewing.
just reviewing and just to have it on the record that these ordinances
They've
were
been reviewed,
reviewed.
because you can't change them, but you can.
Right, okay,
So you're reviewing and making recommendations about what, if anything, should be done then.
okay. I move that we accept our review and that we recommend for town meeting, making amendments to the dog ordinance about cleaning up and the water ordinance as outlined in Paul Slack's letter.
Second.
Is it all in favor? Great.
So
Paul,
make
go
those
ahead.
note as you get to town meeting time.
Your hand is
Oh,
still
yeah.
up.
It'll be in there.
Oh, my hand is still up. Oh,
Yeah.
boy. How do I get rid of that?
Don't ask me.
I'll lower my hand.
There,
Okay.
good.
Miracle. Miracle.
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
Ordinance reviews assessor, addressing officer, building and street numbering ordinance.
We didn't do the public space, or we did?
We did.
Yeah, well, that's just no camping.
Okay. Any comments, Kyle, about the,
It's working fine for us. I don't see any amendments.
Okay,
So
good.
authorize it.
all right,
Very good.
okay. Review bids, discuss background and financing alternatives for improvements to Northeast Harbor Fire Station and fiber connection. Project is described in Articles 19 and 20 of annual town meeting held May 3, 2022.
I would like it noted that I'm abstaining from this discussion and vote.
Be helpful to have a general overview.
Yes, please.
Yes.
So obviously a lot has changed in the market since we started preparing this. Rates are still pretty good, I would say, when you look at a long-term history. Because of the nature of the financing environment that we find ourselves in, we asked for two different types of proposals from surrounding institutions. One is a 2-year bond anticipation note that would pay for the initial cost of the construction and the projects. that would be refinanced once final costs are established for these projects with probably the bond bank during one of their opening funding sessions. The other that we asked for was the 20-year bond term, which is the maximum that the town authorized at town meeting. You'll see that the two most attractive options in those two categories, in the ban option, Machias Savings Bank had a 1.99% offer for that 2-year ban, and Bar Harbor Bank and Trust had a 4.34% 20-year bond proposal. So it all kind of comes down to what you think rates are going to do in the next couple of years. Essentially, there's a lot of analysis that I can go into if you want me to, but the final proposal or final suggestion is that going ahead and locking in the 20-year term bond provides some insurance against outrageous rate increases over the next couple of years. It will be, in the first 2 years, it's more expensive in terms of interest. However, it's essentially akin to an insurance policy. Because the great thing is that if interest rates do not increase substantially, or maybe even decrease or stay the same, if it's advantageous to do so, because the 20-year notes are callable, we can refinance with, again, probably the bond bank once final costs are established. And so we would look at doing that once the projects are finalized.
Yeah.
I would lean towards the long term, the 20-year term with, if they do drop, which nobody really thinks they're going to at this moment in time, whether you're a professional or not, the fear is that they'll continue to climb for at least a few years. I would say we're better off with that personally, rather than try and save a few bucks over a 2-year period and then potentially be stuck.
I think that makes sense as well.
Mr. Pitt has a comment.
Yes, go ahead. Dan?
Thank you. My name is Dan Pittman. I'm an attorney with Eaton Peabody. I've been retained to serve as bond counsel here. I just wanted to mention a few things. Obviously, Jake's summary was excellent, and his numbers in particular, his financial projections were very useful. The first thing I want to make clear just has to do with the procedure for this meeting. Before the board is authorized to vote on a resolution or to adopt a motion to choose a particular bid, we need to hold a public hearing. That public hearing is scheduled for 6:30. So I thought it would be useful because there are two bids floating around. And frankly, because I had misunderstood that this was starting at 6:30 rather than 6, for which I apologize. I thought it would be helpful to have a general discussion now before the public hearing to get a sense of which way the board is leaning. And then at 6:30, assuming anyone comes to the public meeting, anyone shows up or logs in, we can revisit that and get public comments on whether they have the same sense of which way is the most effective to go. And then we can reconvene this meeting and you can make your final decision once that's happened. The other thing I wanted to say is it's worth noting, Jake's exactly right, that if you go the Bar Harbor Bank and Trust route, you can refinance that at any time when it's advantageous down the road, hopefully, knock on wood. That is not true with bond bank bonds. When you go with bond bank, you are locked. You cannot prepay bond bank bonds. There are certain circumstances where after 10 years, the bond bank can refund its own bonds, and you will benefit from the rate drop if they choose to do that. It happens automatically. It happens without the town's involvement, really. But that's discretionary, and that cannot happen before 10 years. So just to make sure that everyone understands sort of the apples to apples comparison with Bar Harbor, you can do it whenever rates allow, whenever financial conditions approve to the point where that makes sense for the town. If you go with the bond bank, you're essentially stuck with it forever. On any given day, if we were going to close this today, or on any given day, you will always save money from going with the bond bank over somebody like Bar Harbor Bank and Trust or a local bank. for a project of roughly this size, just because of the way the bond bank sells its bonds. It aggregates a bunch of bonds from a bunch of different issuers, takes them down to New York, sells them on the exchange down there, and they just can get a better deal than banks ever can. The issue that you're facing, as Jake has said, but I want to emphasize, is because of the way the bond bank does the timing of their deals. They only do 2 deals a year, and you really are best off waiting until you've substantially completed the project. So we're really talking about comparing what's available today to what we expect will be available 2 years from now, which if your crystal balls are working better than mine, that's great. But I just wanted to give you that background so that you can start thinking about which direction the board wants to go. And of course, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And then coming up in a couple of minutes here, we can switch to the public hearing and hear if there is any public input, and then finalize the decision.
Okay, so it sounded to me like you were behind the ban and then an 18-year.
No, my recommendation is to take the insurance policy route and do a 20-year bond. And if rates are advantageous, when the project is substantially complete, we could refinance at that point.
Yeah, it's the easiest.
And the same is true for the Somerville project, by the way. So if they're both substantially complete at a time where rates are advantageous, we could potentially refund all of those bonds at the same time and save a little bit on attorney's costs and also interest.
All right.
It's a hedge against the double-digit interest rates we had in the 70s.
Oh, my goodness.
So it was up as high as 14.
I remember
15%,
my
so
parents bought a house. at
If
13.
we can lock in at
Bought a
4,
house in 1981.
we can avoid that potential catastrophe.
And in terms of debt service payments, the 20-year bond note does actually come in pretty close to what I had estimated at town meeting when that question was, even though I was using a lower percentage to estimate the official amortization schedule that we received from Bar Harbor Bank and Trust was not that much higher. Annual payments would be $424,000 starting July 1st, 2023.
And if I could jump in briefly on that point as well, just so for your background information, the requirement of the statute in terms of the projection of debt service costs is just that you give a good faith estimate at the time that you send the article to be printed, and there is an explicit, very, very clear instruction in the law that governs this to the effect that changes in interest rates or if the ultimate borrowing cost is higher than the expectation given to the borrower, that's fine, and that doesn't cause any problems from an issuance standpoint as long as the original estimate was made in good faith. Jake and I spent a fair bit of time trying to work out what a reasonable rate looked like as of, I don't remember, back in March, I guess it was, when we were trying to finalize the article, and I'm very comfortable that we had a good faith estimate as of that time, and I think everyone will tell you that what's happened in the market in the last couple of months was not something that we could price. So the fact that it is a little bit over the estimate is not a concern from the perspective of the law.
I've got 6:30, so you can have this
All right.
public hearing.
We need to vote to go into the public.
Yeah, you should vote to go to the public hearing, then you can vote to go out, and it doesn't look like there's anyone here that's zoomed in, so it's gonna be just a quick thing at this point.
Don't forget, if you go to public hearing now, don't forget that you have a warrant also.
Yeah.
So I move we open the public hearing regarding financing of improvements to the Northeast Harbor Fire Station and Fiber Connection Project as described in Articles 19 and 20 of the annual town meeting.
I second that.
Good, all in favor?
All right.
Yeah, I would like to open the public meeting.
Don't all speak at once.
I know.
I don't see anyone up on the screen either.
No, pretty much just us.
I suppose at this point, you could close it now if there's no one here to, just us, unless we want to argue about it.
Hearing no public comment, I move that
Well,
we,
hold on, let's look at the computer time. It's exactly 6:30.
30, so you want to give it a
Give it a
minute?
few minutes here.
I could ask a question
Yeah,
as a taxpayer. Dan, you mentioned that if we went the bond bank route, we could save some money. What kind of money were we talking about saving?
Well, if you compare the rate that any given bank, Bar Harbor Bank and Trust or any other lender would offer today to what the bond bank would get if they went out and sold a bond today, I haven't looked at the numbers, but typically the bond bank is going to be something like 75 basis points lower. So if it were the case that the bond bank was, selling a bond tomorrow afternoon, I would expect that it would come in lower. The costs of issuing a bond through the bond bank are a little bit higher. So if you're borrowing less than about $500,000, usually the interest savings aren't enough to make it worth your while. But if you're borrowing more than, $500,000, 750,000, somewhere in that range, it will always be cheaper on any given day. And again, I don't, it's hard to give a real precise estimate on that, but I would think somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 basis points, maybe up to 100 basis points. The issue is that that's not the way the bond bank operates. If you apply to the bond bank today, the earliest that we could sell a bond would be November 1st of this year. And it would be priced in mid-October of this year. So, the fact that right now bond bank rates are, in some theoretical sense, lower than what Bar Harbor Bank and Trust would give you isn't really relevant, because what's really relevant is there's nothing that the bond bank can do for you until November. And in this case, it's even worse than that, because it's better for a number of reasons to go with the bond bank once you have substantially completed the construction. For one thing, borrowing too much money from the bond bank is a real problem. That is a very, very expensive and difficult to fix issue if you borrow more than a couple $1,000s more than you wind up needing. So if the project comes in just a little bit under budget, that can create real headaches. So in this case, what we're really, to compare apples to apples, we're really talking about what Bar Harbor would offer today, whatever 4.34, compared to, whatever the bond bank would be offering in May of 2024, I suppose. And I just couldn't even begin to guess what that would look like.
Well, that all goes into the detailed analysis that I did. And future value adjusted, you need 3.283% rate increases in the bond bank before there's a break-even point.
all right, anybody else? I think we'll bring the public hearing to a close.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
All right,
Back,
Okay,
we can take your action.
okay, why don't we do that? Consider resolutions authorizing selected financing option for improvements to Northeast Harbor Fire Station and Fiber Connection Project as described in Article 19 and 20 of the 2022 annual town meeting.
I move that the bond award be made to Bar Harbor Bank and Trust Company in the principal amount of $5,582,427 at 4.34% with no prepayment penalty for a term of 20 years. As recommended by Jake.
second.
Second.
Rick seconded.
Okay, does that sound good?
Yeah, you're passing the resolutions.
Good, okay.
Your recommendation.
No further discussion, all in favor?
All right,
One abstaining.
Jake, thank you. Like, this was
Thank
Yeah, it
you.
was a really.
so clear and
Yeah.
Yeah,
answered questions and made it,
yeah,
so that
very
was
good.
super helpful.
good.
And Rick will need to come in tomorrow to sign the resolutions,
Yeah, just the bond document.
just the bond document.
Okay. Any other business? Okay,
I
treasurers,
have one thing. Rick, I hope you'll come to our meetings in person.
I will as soon as there's no more masks. I have a very claustrophobic nature about me when I have to sit for more than 10 minutes with a mask on my face.
Who doesn't?
Just saying. I'm glad Zoom's available to me.
Okay, any other business? Okay, treasurer's warrants, town invoices AP 2268 in the amount of $2,610.34.
Approval and signature.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Good, all in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Jake. This was
See you all.
I appreciate it.
See ya.
See ya.